Hello, everyone. Welcome. Today is December the 13th, 2021. I am Solid Blue Sister, and this is My Turn to Talk. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Okay, so I am going to get started here. Today, I am going to talk about personal happiness. When does personal happiness override family obligations? Does your happiness come first? Do you put your wishes first? When is it wrong to do so? Is it selfish to live for yourself before your family? And additional questions I have is, should you put your family before yourself? Okay. And basically, I guess the questions are the same. Should you live for your family? Do people give up part of themselves when they put their family first? So those are some questions, that I have. And um, I know that when you get married, your responsibilities change, your lifestyle changes. Um, when you're growing up, you have responsibilities within your family. Some cultures are where, you know, when your parents get older, they move in with you or another family member, and you take care of your parents because they took care of you, and it's also respecting your elders by, taking care of them. So my question is, when do you override that? When does your personal happiness come into play? I know there are some cultures where literally the siblings or children get married in order of age. So if your sister's 25 and she's not married, but you're 23, and your gentleman caller or boyfriend, whatever, asks you to marry them, the family will say no because your sister gets married first. So then it places a lot of pressure on the youngest in that particular family. If your culture is where the oldest gets married first and the youngest gets married last, then there's a very well possibility that you being the youngest, you'll miss out on your happiness waiting for your other siblings to get married. And then a lot of not a lot, but some cultures have it where as the siblings move out of the household, the youngest person, the next youngest, is taking care of the parents. So then what happens when that youngest wants to finally get married, and then you have pressure from your siblings going, well, you have to take care of mom, you have to take care of dad. So again, when does your personal happiness override your family um, responsibilities? And then after you get married, you're married, you have this family. Does that mean that you can't go out with the girls anymore? You can't go out with the guys anymore? Um, do you always have to be there for your family, meaning they come first, where your happiness is second? Is there a way to balance that? So those are the questions that I have. And Crucible Man, you are first. So I am going to stop talking, and I'll send out some invites. Hello. And if you would like to start us off, if not, I have some other questions that I can definitely ask. Welcome, Crucible Man. You have the mic.
Hello. There's always a fine line between putting others first and putting yourself first. Can you make other people happy if you're not happy? I think it depends on the situation, because what tends to happen when people put themselves first is they get accused of being selfish. And there's probably some truth to that. I mean, we are all selfish on some level, and I think for good reason. It's human nature. It's the instinct of survival. So it depends on the situation. Now, if I were in a culture where we had to get married in order, that would be problematic because there's to me, even though it's not my culture, it's easy for me to criticize it. Um, but that would seem to be a very arbitrary type of custom that doesn't really serve the greater good of everybody involved. Now, if to go to your example about getting married, can you then still go out with your friends and then hang out and things like that? Of course you can. I mean, we have to live our lives. But if you get to a point where you're putting yourself first all the time to the detriment of other people, that's going to be a problem. Now, there are a lot of people on this earth, lots of mothers and fathers who get great joy out of putting other people first. You know, when you have kids, you have to put them first. But you walk a fine line. If you spend all your time putting other people first, your life is going to suffer, and resentment, may build up. And it's going to be a detrimental situation. But I think people run the risk of being accused of being selfish when they put themselves first, when I think it's a very basic human instinct.
But it's interesting that you said that word selfish, because that's something that I was going to bring up later on. But I mean, are you being selfish? I mean, when you have, okay, for instance, look at where you have in some religions, and I'm not sure if it's some of the Muslim religions, I could be wrong, which I probably am, where, they do those, I don't know if they ever call it mercy killings, or where if the daughter strays and doesn't marry whomever the family tells them to, and she's not a virgin anymore, well, then the brothers and the father will go and kill the daughter. I mean, when you look at something like that, it's like, is the daughter being selfish because she doesn't want to marry the person that you picked out for me when I was 2, as opposed to the person that I met in college and I fell in love with this person and we want to get married, but now I've dishonored the family, so you're going to kill me. So is she being selfish, or is the family being selfish? Because all you care about is your family standing, or your family honor.
Yeah, I don't have the formal definition of selfish in front of me here, but I would think it would be any time you serve your needs to the detriment of other people's needs. So, selfish is a hard word, but the risk you run by not being a little bit selfish is you fall into, there's a very slippery slope where you're expected all the time to put other people first. And it can be a self-defeating proposition, because you can, may lead to maybe self-esteem issues where you don't feel like you have the confidence to make decisions based on your own self-interest, because you're afraid of being criticized, or you're afraid of being called selfish. So I think that cuts both ways, but I think you have to be brave enough to, and have enough common sense to know this is a situation where I can put myself first, or no, this is not a situation where I can put myself first. It really is a judgment call, but I think in a very base way, we all have selfishness in us. I think it's part of human nature.
Well, the definition of selfish is lacking consideration for others, concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure. And I don't know yeah, that could be the definition of selfish, but at the same time, when you're talking about your family, welcome GP Man, and welcome Sutra Inda. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. When you're talking about putting yourself first, why should I have to, be the sibling to remain at home to take care of my parents if my other siblings are also, they're around, they live in the same city, whatever. Why should it be, why should I be the person to have to stay home? So I'm playing both sides of the fence here. So welcome, Misha. So why do I have to be the person that stays home? Why me? Um, why do your parents even expect you to give up your happiness to come and take care of the family, or take care of little Johnny, or Susie needs to be bailed out of jail, so we're calling you again. You are the big brother, so you have to do it. So why can't I be selfish? I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, I think you can be selfish, but what happens, I think, in a lot of families is they follow the kind of like the hierarchy, and even though they may not have formal customs that say we're going to get married in the order that we were born, um, there's a pecking order in families, and particularly families that have several siblings. There's kind of an expectation that you're going to earn your stripes, if you will. That's probably the wrong way to put it, but you're going to do what other people tell you to do, because they've kind of put in their time at the lower end of the spectrum, growing up, and the youngest kid gets the crappiest jobs and has to walk the dog and things like that. That could be considered to be selfish. But families have hierarchies, and they dictate who's going to do what. And you could say, well, the parents are being selfish. And parents are frequently selfish. Parents put themselves first with the rationalization that, hey, I've been, taking care of these kids for the last how many days. I don't have any time for myself. I'm going to, close the door and take a bath and have a glass of wine. And that's certainly, you're right to do that. But if all hell is breaking loose outside the door, kids are running around and, glass is breaking, it's probably not the time to be sitting in the bathtub. So I think parents get a pass sometimes on being selfish because they're parents, and it's just assumed or implied that they're selfless people. But parents are human beings. Nobody is completely selfless. So I think everybody should be selfish once in a while. You got to pick your spots.
Okay. All right. Welcome, Juju. I'm going to send out some more invites. I'm going to send out invites to Misha and invites to Juju. If you guys want to join in, you can. If not, I totally understand, but you can join in the conversation whenever you like. But I understand what you're saying, Crucible Man. But again, with the hierarchy of the family dynamics, doesn't the youngest person get screwed, and doesn't the oldest get screwed also? And what I mean by that is, the oldest, if you're the oldest and say you have four siblings up under you, mom and dad are constantly working, and they're counting on you to make sure your siblings get fed, they do their homework, they do this and they do that. But then you want to go to prom, or you want to go hang out with your friends, but you can't because you're tasked with taking care of your siblings. Or if you're the youngest, like I said before, after everyone else has moved out the house, you're ready to move, or you want to go away to school as opposed to staying at home. And one reason why you probably want to go away to school is because you just want to get away from your family. But, your parents may say, oh, well, no one's going to be here. So-and-so is married, and so-and-so, they live out of state. You really should stay here. Is it fair to cut into someone else's happiness for you? I mean, can I be selfish when I say I don't want to babysit my siblings? I want to go hang out. I haven't hung out with my friends for 3 months. I want to go to prom. I don't want to sit here and take care of my siblings. Yes, you are working, but what about me? Is that okay? I mean, when does my personal happiness come into play?
Well, people can take advantage, I think, and you have to be able to stand up and say, I'm making this decision for myself. I mean, the youngest kid does always get screwed. It's just the way it's always been. I don't know that that's ever going to change. It's the same with the newest employee and things like that. You are slotted into a certain segment, and you kind of have to live with that for a while. But I think selfishness gets a bad rap. What if we called it, self-interest or self-care? There's an old saying: you're not going to be very good to very many people if you're not taking care of yourself. But just like anything in life, it's a slippery slope. If you get used to rationalizing your decisions based on, I deserve this, um, you know, that's going to be tricky too, because then you're more in the mode of indulging yourself, and you don't always even think of the impact on other people, because you've gotten into the habit of rationalizing why you should put yourself first. But if it's a case of taking care of sick parents, or a sick relative, or a sick, I mean, I don't even know if you could call that a decision. I mean, you do what you have to do for your family. I used to, when my mother passed away, my father was all alone, and he took it very, very hard. She died very suddenly, and he was a mess. And I would drive out there. I was kind of designated because being single, I had time, and I could go out and spend the night with him and sleep over, and hang out the next day with him. And I would do this every Thursday for years, even when I didn't feel like it. I feel like I was just out there. And many times he wouldn't talk. He just would sit there. We would watch TV in silence for hours at a time. Um, I thought many times about skipping it and making an excuse to say, I didn't have an excuse. I didn't have anywhere to be. I just got tired of going out and sitting in that environment. It was kind of depressing, but I never thought twice about actually making an excuse, because he was my father and he needed me. And to not go out there and sit with him would have been the height of selfishness. I would have wanted somebody to do that for me too. So there are moral, dilemmas involved as well, but it depends on the situation. And if anytime you get your family involved, I think selfishness really needs to be on the back burner.
Okay, you have brought up a lot of good points, but again, I'm playing both sides. But at the same time, while you were the single one, did you at least for 1 minute, for even for a split second, think that I may be the single one and I'm going out, to sit with my dad and everything, even though my siblings are married, is still their father? Did that ever cross your mind at all? Did that ever come up in conversations that you had with any of your siblings?
Yes, it did, because my father was, he was really pretty helpless after my mother passed away. He really couldn't do anything for himself, and my siblings would go over there for maybe an hour at a time, and then they would leave again. Because they had kids to take care of, and jobs and things like that. So they would only be there for an hour or so, and he was hard to be around. He was really hard to be around. Because he was going downhill, and it was just hard to watch, and it was uncomfortable. He wasn't talking, and he would just start crying in the middle of things. So it was a very stressful situation. But after a while, I began to see it as the gift that it really was, because when my mother was alive, my father was in the background. I mean, he was just in the background, like a lot of fathers are. And she would tell him, don't talk. Well, I'm talking to the kids now, kind of a thing. And he knew his place. And so we never really developed the kind of one-on-one relationship with him that we did with our mother, because she was such a strong personality. But once she was gone, I got to know my father in a way that I never would have gotten to know him had my mother still been alive. So I tried to start looking at it from a positive standpoint, in a way that's more of a gift to me than a burden. But yes, there were times where I felt like I should be able to go out for an hour and then get back in the car and just go home. I shouldn't have to spend the whole night and then part of the next day. But it took a while before I reached the conclusion that there's going to be a time where you're going to want to get in this car and drive out and see him, and he's not going to be here. So I did a 180 on it. But yes, there were times where I was very resentful that it fell to me just because of my life circumstances.
Okay, all right. Now, everyone, a lot of my questions are being directed to Crucible Man because he's the only one on. But again, if anybody wants to join in, feel free. So, Crucible Man, I have another question for you. So, you are single and you have 4 other siblings. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and they're all married with their families. So as you've gotten older, whatever, and you have seen your siblings, get married, whatever. Um, did you ever feel that because you were single, your family tended to lean on you more because they either assumed you had more time, or assumed that you can do this because they assume you didn't have any other responsibilities?
Yeah, it was pretty obvious from the beginning that I was going to be the designated person, and I understood. I mean, this was 16 years ago, and my siblings still had teenage children. They were school age. Some were even younger than that. They were probably grammar school, and there was serious parenting that needed to be done. So these were not acts of selfishness on their part. It was really more out of necessity. We ended up getting up 20, a 12-hour a day person who come in and take care of him because he just couldn't take care of himself. But um, there was a time when we went back and forth about and we all felt guilty because it was like, well, who's going to go see dad today? And it just felt really selfish to us that we would even be having that conversation, thinking, how can you speak that way about your father? But it wasn't about our father. We weren't being selfish for selfishness purposes. It was uncomfortable to watch our father, kind of deteriorate the way he did, not just physically, but mentally. And he developed dementia at the end, and he couldn't talk. And it was stressful. It was hard to watch. It was hard to be around. We couldn't talk to him. So it wasn't that we didn't want to be around him. There was very little we could do. So when we were having these conversations, it felt very selfish, but we were just approaching it from a practical standpoint. We loved our father and we would do anything for him, but it became so limiting as to what we could do for him. I got to wonder, does he even know I'm here? Does he care if I'm here? Does it matter if I don't show up? Would he notice? So you have these very selfish thoughts, but when all is said and done, you come back to, do the right thing, put yourself first. And now that he's gone, I wouldn't have changed the thing.
Okay. All right. I'm listening to you, and I'm just thinking about, for my own personal life. I live in California. Chicago is my hometown. And ever since I was 10, I wanted to move to California. Everybody knew that one day, somehow, some way, I was moving to California. My family, I have an older sister, and, we summers, whatever, we went on the family vacations where we were all over. I mean, we went everywhere, but California is the place that I wanted to go. I'm in Southern California. I have relatives in Northern, and this is where I want to be. And yes, GP man, I am very happy in California. I've been here since 1994. In fact, I drove in the day that OJ was doing his thing on the freeway. But when I moved, I had some resentment from my sister. And she was like, "Oh, you're leaving me here with mom and dad." And my parents, they were, they were healthy. They're still, working. They weren't retired or anything. But this is what I wanted to do. And at one point, my sister never said it, but I think she thought that I was being selfish. And I had talked to my parents. And I was working at a company where I chose to take a severance, and there were some other things that were going on there. And it was the perfect time for me to move. And when I moved, I'm packing up, and my mom is helping me drive out. We're packing up the car at like 3:00 in the morning. And my dad pulled me to the side. He says, "If it doesn't work out, you can always come back home." And, the fact that he, said that, it made me feel good, whatever. But over the years, I used to go back and visit all the time, and then it became less, and then I would go back some more. And then there was a period of time when I was being selfish. I was in the city, and I didn't see them, and that bothered me. But after that, I made more trips back home. Both of my parents are now gone. My mother passed away. My father passed away in 18. My mother passed away in October. And when I went back home to deal with the house and what have you, I know that my sister is there, and I know that she's still taking the brunt of having to deal with some legal things, whatever. And I am going back and forth, whatever. But I look at my life and I look at the conversations that I've had with my parents, and my parents were like, you wanted to move to California. This is what you wanted to do. I'm glad that you did it. I don't want you ever to be in the position where you say, I wish I had, I should have. And my parents were always very supportive of us leaving the nest. If we wanted to go live in Paris or go live wherever, it was like, go. Don't let someone else hold you back. So for me, when I look at being selfish and with family, I see it where you can be selfish, but if you go back or if you're there to help, then it's okay. But at the same time, I had other extended family who told me that I was selfish because I moved 2,000 miles away from my family. And I'm like, but my family's fine, but some people, they grew up in the same city. They live and die in the same city, which is fine if that's okay for you. But for me, I was never that person. I was always that person who always had to go. I had to go. And my family, they recognize that, especially my parents. So I'm at peace for, the choices that I made. And I have one son, and my husband and I are like, if he wants to go live off far, far away, if it makes him happy, that's what you do. I don't want to be the reason that my son stays put. So having said that, Crucible Man, do you want to say anything else? Or Feisty One, welcome.
Well, you can't live your life for other people, and so I applaud your independence and your courage to get up and go. My parents never overtly, and it would have been my mother, never overtly said, please don't ever leave the state or the city or anything. But it was kind of strongly implied, and we all picked up on the vibe. And was anybody resentful? No, I don't think anybody really wanted to go anywhere. But had I had a strong desire to do something like that, I think I would have followed it, because there's a real danger, particularly when you're young. I think maybe you said something about your father saying it, that you don't want to look back and say, had I only had the courage to do this or that and make these decisions. Because if you get in the habit of living for other people, then that's all you'll ever do, and you'll find ways to justify that and make excuses for why you're putting everybody ahead of you. So it depends on the person, it depends on the situation, but we have to live our lives for ourselves. There's an old saying, I think somebody might have typed it in the chat box, you be you, and that you have to be yourself, because that's all you can be. If you're trying to live through somebody else, you're going to disappoint them and you're going to disappoint yourself. And pretty soon you're going to have resentment. And that doesn't sound like a real happy way to live your life. And certainly not as you get toward the end and you start going back through the things you should or shouldn't have done. It's a case by case thing, but to live for other people and to live by their standards, I think is a real quick route to disappointment.
Okay. Now, GP Man says the average American dies within a 50-mile radius from birthplace. And Frankie says, I remain home for my family and I regret it to this day. So, and Eric says, Crucible Man, you're speaking truth. We can't live life trying to please others, knowing they'll never be pleased. So, and I guess that's what I'm getting to. When we start saying selfish, are we being selfish, or are our family members being selfish because they don't want to let us go for selfish reasons? You're the youngest, so you stay. You're single, so you're able to do this. Years ago, I worked at a telecom company, and a supervisor that I had all of 1 week before I left the department. I was one of the people who, you start work at 8:30 to 5. I left at 5 o'clock. Okay. I was not staying till 5. All of my work was done, and I was leaving. One particular time, this particular supervisor said to me, well, why are you leaving all the time? You aren't married. What responsibilities do you have? And I looked at him like, you must be kidding me. And he's like, well, you aren't married. And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? And it's like, people look at whether you're married or whatever. So you have all these responsibilities before you're married. And I told him, I said, you don't know if I have a sick family member at home. You don't know if I'm, taking care of, a mother or father. What right do you have to say that? But people make assumptions, and, it's, I don't know. It's like, again, are you selfish for yourself, or are other people selfish for themselves? And welcome, Shannon. Does anyone else have anything that they want to say? If not, I am going to keep going. If anybody else wants to jump in. So, let me ask you, do you think that people would, let me see, you have told him my party life starts at 5 p.m. No, I've just always had things that I was always doing. I've always had my hand in something. I was always doing something. And, and besides, I was always one of those people, and I really believe this, that if your workday starts at 9 and it ends at 5, I have noticed that if you tend to stay late and you're just doing it because, you're either helping someone out or you're getting some work done, if you keep doing it enough, all of a sudden people start to expect it. And then when you do leave at 5 o'clock, it's like, well, wait, where are you going? You're usually here until 6 or 6:30. So I've always been someone who, I'm going to put the parameters and guidelines, so you know where I stand. And if you want me to do something, you can ask me. I'll either say yes or I'll say no, but don't assume. So that's the person that I've always been. So let me ask you. We've been talking about being selfish, and what have you. But your family happiness, is your family happiness more important than your family happiness? And what I mean by that, you're married, you have your own family, and then you have your family, your siblings and your mom and dad, whatever. So who comes first? What if there's always some drama going on in your family that you grew up with, but you're, trying to, you have your own family, you know, whose happiness comes first, your family or your family? So, hi, Shannon, you wanted to come on. What do you want to say, my friend?
Hi, sweetie. The reason why I didn't jump in for that first invite was because I don't think I'm the perfect person to be on the panel today. Because since I'm estranged from my family, but I could probably give another perspective on that side of it, because right now my family is right now probably on my huge shit list right now. So sorry. And it's very serious. Yeah. So I don't think I could give good advice on that.
Well, I mean, I'm not looking for advice, but even from what you say, it's like, should, because of the situation that you are in with your family, if something were to happen that was an emergency, do you think that that would change? Do you think that you may put the shit list feeling aside and go help them
Well,
if they
that's
need
an
it?
excellent question. The shoe always, there's always another side to that. Well, the reason why they're on my shit list is because I had a heart attack in 2010 and I had a triple bypass. And yes, my father was there after the fact, but he left a week after and just said, "Okay, I'll be back." He doesn't have a job because he's a writer and he has this whatever. He's on disability because of his back, but he never bothered to come back because he owed me money. But I would have. That's when I needed help the most. My rib cage was still, uh, cut. Every breath was like breaking my rib cage over and over and over. And 2 weeks after the surgery, they wouldn't give me any more pain pills. And after open heart surgery, it's like you need that. And believe me, I hate pills, but after open heart surgery, you need that. And so I needed help just for going to the grocery store, whatever it was, cooking, because that's something I would have always done for him. If he would have, had a heart attack, I would have been there for, especially if I didn't have to get up and go to a 9 to 5, because he was a writer and worked from home. And he definitely could have been there, stayed there. I paid for everything for him to be there, housed him, fed him, because I had some money. And, but he just, because I said, "Well, Dad, you owe me some money for when we got snowed in Nashville." And that's all I had to say. And then he never called me again to see how I was. Just kind of, my own father did that to me because he thought I was asking for the money again. And no, I would have gladly waived that. You're my dad. I would have, it was only $3,000 and just, to stay and help me. And it didn't cost him a dime. And I haven't talked to him since. So right now, I mean, we're probably never going to speak again. He just abandoned me to heal by myself. I had no one. Because Scott was in Iraq for his first tour. And if it was not for New Orleans cab drivers, I don't think I would have survived. Them helping me carry groceries up. I mean, you have no idea when they split your rib cage open, it takes a long time for it to heal. And every breath is like someone it breaking every time. So it's constant pain. And he abandoned me. And I don't think I could ever forgive him. And I don't think if the same thing was to happen to him now because of what he did to me, I will not be there for him. And he's going to really regret what he did to me. Because I won't be there for him now. I would have never done that to him. I would have been there, especially if I had the means. I didn't have to go to a job. I mean, I had the ability to take care of him. I took care of his own sister when she had a stroke, and I didn't even know her very well. She was left paralyzed on one side of her body, and she was bedridden for the rest of her life. Read to her, cooked her breakfast, lunch, dinner, put salve on her hemorrhoids, checked her blood sugar. I was her home care just because nobody else in the family would do it. And I didn't even know her, barely. I did it because I wanted to get to know her and because it was the right thing to do. I moved there, got a job, and basically only worked 2 days. I sacrificed myself for her, a woman I never knew, only because her own brothers who could have done it wouldn't do it. So right now, I'm completely estranged from my family because of what he did to me.
Shannon, I'm really sorry, and I truly mean this sincerely. I'm really sorry, that happened to you. But I want to read something that Eric said, and then I want to come back to something that you said.
Okay.
Eric says, "I know of other people who have been in that sort of sort of the dilemma, and people have to remember they're not alone in whatever unfortunate dilemmas they may be. Now, Eric says, people have to remember that they're not by themselves. So, Shannon, did you have other siblings or other family members other than your father that could have helped you and that they didn't? Or because I do believe that some people, they really are by themselves if they don't have anyone else to turn to, unless you have a good Samaritan there who is willing to help you. So, Shannon, aside from your father, if you were to get into this situation again, I mean, Lord forbid that you have a heart attack or something, but in a situation where you really needed help, aside from your father, is there anyone else who would step up and help you?
Well, I have a brother, and at that time, he had just gotten married and had his first baby. So the baby, he had to work. He had no choice. He would not have been able to do it. But so he definitely couldn't do that. He was struggling himself just to take care of him, his wife, and his baby. But after the storm here in Katrina, you don't understand. I mean, so many people moved away, and I've always had like enough friends that I could count on my two hands. And, but they were very close friends. Every freaking one of them moved away. And then plus, it's lost touch. I mean, it's like all of a sudden I had all these wonderful friends and they moved away because of the storm, and I lost touch, and nobody was able to step up. Nobody. At that point in my life, I actually had nobody. And he was my only person who could have stepped up and did it because he didn't have a job. And he just chose not to. And then he chose to not even call me to see how I was doing. So, I mean, that's
But
just...
he didn't call you, you're assuming because of the money situation.
I think so.
So
And then
if
when
the
he was
money
here,
situation had not have come up, do you think that he would have still been there for you?
No, because he was there. He's like, hey, I need another TV. Can I have this TV? I'm like sitting there going, "Ah." He goes, and he also wanted me to buy him this Mercedes. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll buy it for you, but we're going to register and put it in my name. Oh, no. No, it'll be in my name. I'm like, my father's kind of a genius, but he's kind of a con. I felt like he was only there to see what he could get. Some people just don't have the best family. He never, he didn't raise me. And my mother died when I was really young, and I was left with a stepfather. And I didn't really know my father till I was 14. So we never really had those bonding years. But then when I did meet up with him in New Orleans, he's actually a really cool guy, one of the smartest men I've ever known in my life. But we never had that bonding phase where like him and my brother did. So and then after that, after he left me and abandoned me, even though I know he could at least stay 2 more months to help me out to where I was able to really get on my feet and, cook dinner and go grocery shopping, do the normal things. He just abandoned me, and I had to heal by myself thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die. But if it wasn't for New Orleans cab drivers helping me, and when I come into my money and I'm coming into major lawsuit money, I am going to donate to New Orleans cab company because of the kindness that they extended to me. I've had more kindness from people I didn't know than my own freaking family. So it's amazing. And like the few people I've met on Podbean, some of the most wonderful people I have met in decades. And it's just amazing how a stranger can end up being your best friend before your own family or your own friends. So that's why I didn't think I was the best person for this, because my view of family right now is, I don't know, my family's just real shitty.
Actually, Shannon, I disagree. I think that you were probably one of the perfect people for this because we're talking about being selfish and what your family should and should not do. So I thank you for sharing. Um, but I do want to ask Eric a question. Eric, I understand that you're not able to come on right now. Do you really think that that you're really not alone? That if something unfortunate happens, that there will be someone there. And are you referring to family or are you referring to strangers? Are you referring to both? I'm just interested to know what you feel about that, if that's how you really feel. Because I think that some people, unfortunately, they are by themselves and they don't have anyone else to turn to. And I'm just going to wait for Eric to respond to that. And Shannon, okay, you just answered GP Pan's question. So Shannon, so have you thought of leaving Louisiana, or that's pretty much where you
Oh
plan
no.
to stay?
Soon as I get my lawsuit money, I am gone. What this state has done to me because of Ochsner's hospital owning everything and the cover up of my story, my situation, I cannot wait to get out of the corrupted state that this place is. And yes, and I would go grab a slice of happiness. And because we do choose to be happy. And I do think that you can, if you have the resources, and I will, to move out of chaos. And so, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm truly thinking about moving to Costa Rica, buying some beachfront property, and just having a working retirement and buying a resort and put some restaurants on it. Grab some happiness.
Okay, all right. And let's see, Eric responded, I'm speaking in the context that there may be other people out there who've been in similar or worse situations out there. If you listen to this published episode, they may hear it in Shannon's story that they can relate to it. Okay, that we may not know about. All right, okay. I understand where you're coming from. All right, welcome, Wisdom. When you talk about family, some of us come from large families. Some of us, for me, it's just my sister. For my son, he's an only child. Whatever. And you wonder sometimes, and sometimes you do question. Should I have been there to help? Will they help me? Should I pay for this or should I pay for that? You know, if you're the person, let's say that you're the person who was financially successful. You weren't the most successful. I'm not saying you're the most successful person in your family because you have the most money, but on a financial side, you are financially successful. And you have someone in your family who is the who's the black sheep. But your mom and dad, they love this kid, be it male or female, no matter what. It's like, your brother's in trouble, your sister's in trouble, they're about to lose their house. Can you bail them out? You bail them out, and then they, take out another mortgage or loan. Then they get back into the same trouble. Mom and dad want you to come back and bail them out again. You bail them out again, or they get in trouble with the law. Come bail them out. Come pay the lawyer fees. Whatever, come pay the tuition. So and so needs braces. Whatever. They're always coming to you. Is it selfish of you to say no? Is it selfish of you to tell your family members, you guys need to stand on your own 2 feet? I helped you once. I'm not helping you again. I don't care how bad it becomes. I don't care, if you all are in dire straits. Stop coming to me because you guys come to me over and over and over again. So what do you guys say to that?
I don't think that's selfish at all because how are they ever going to learn or be self-reliant in the future? If someone just keeps bailing somebody out, they're never going to learn. Then they're always going to be behind there and say, hey, I need a handout again. They're conditioned to that. So that they never choose to be self-reliant or like get a job or find other means or other resources. So it's called tough love.
You're right. You're right. I mean, and that's that's how I feel. So again, it's like you know, when your family starts to impede on your personal happiness or even your mental well-being, is it okay to just tell them to step back and you guys got to give me some breathing room here because you guys are making me crazy. I mean, is it okay to say that? Welcome back, Crucible Man.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Shannon. I think anytime it crosses over into abuse, you're not being, you have the right to be selfish, but most of the time, on in those kinds of situations, when we make selfish decisions, we're almost always thinking short term. What's best for me right now, and you make a decision right at that time based on a very short time horizon. And that's maybe not the best way to look at it, and not to get, into religion and things again, but sometimes you have to take the longer view. And even though, yes, your family keeps coming to you, and yes, this one sibling keeps getting into the same situation, and at some point, tough love, probably is the answer. But what would be the Christian thing to do? What is the long term? When you're on your deathbed, do you want to have that conversation with God that, I did things that I didn't necessarily want to do. I felt taken advantage of. I felt abused, but I knew in my heart it was the right thing to do because this is my sibling or this is my parent or whomever it is. So I think we tend to think very short term when we're being selfish, and it's understandable because we're dealing with the moment. But taking the longer view in terms of, what may benefit me, and sure, that's a selfish thought too. Would I improve my standing with God by doing things right here on earth that I don't want to do? That could be considered to be a selfish thought. But I think if you take the long view on some of these things instead of the short view, we'd oftentimes would make a different decision.
Okay, you make a good point, but there is a but there for me. I just want to read what Eric says. Eric says tough love is one avenue and being honest with yourself and others. All right, so Crucible, you said, what would Jesus do? Is this the Christian thing to do? When you help people out over and over, after a while, it gets old. After a while, it's like, I'm tired of being the Christian. I'm tired of being the bigger one because, at what point are you going to learn that, you need to stop doing this, and this, and this, because I'm not always going to be around to bail you out. And when I'm on my deathbed, am I going to be miserable because I'm constantly taking care of other people? So yeah, it may have been the Christian thing to do, but I'm also not happy. So, again, it comes down to personal happiness. Are you driving me crazy? Are you making me unhappy because you're constantly calling me? As soon as I help you out of one thing, there's something else. And and sometimes that person who's constantly asking you for help, who's constantly asking you for money, if you have your own family, it could cause friction between you and your wife, you and your husband, you and your children. So again, at what point do you have to say no? At what point do you say, I'm going to live for myself. I'm going to live for myself. And right now, my family is just going to have to wait.
Well, I have, I have kind of a personal example of what I was referencing earlier about short-term decisions that feel selfish, but maybe in the long run, a better decision would have served you, better. And the example I'm referring to is, I've said on the show before, I'm a single person and I don't have any kids. And back in my 20s and 30s, when everybody was having kids, I thought it was too much inconvenience. I thought it was too much of a pain in the neck, too much, taking away from my precious lifestyle and all the things that I wanted to do. And I made a decision that I didn't need to have kids in my life. I could have a perfectly good life without them. And that's what I told myself. And I'm sure other people judged me as selfish. It may be a little bit immature, and there's probably some truth to that. But now, as I've gotten older, I believe I may have made the wrong decision, and indulged myself in some short-term selfishness because I was too busy doing other things. That now that it would be nice to have some kids, because kids become your friends as you get older, and then grandkids, and you kind of relive that whole parenting experience again without all the heavy lifting. And so, that's just kind of corroborates what I said. You make these short-term decisions that feel selfish in the moment, and maybe they are, but in retrospect, I wish I would have, I don't want to say bite the bullet, but nobody likes to go through a lot of the things that parents have to go through, whether it's Little League games or Girl Scout cookies or whatever the thing of the day is. There's millions of parents who don't want to do those things, but they do them anyway, whether it's a down payment on the future, because they know their kids are going to grow up and be their friends, or whatever it happens to be. But I think a lot of things have to go into your decision, and when you make a short-term decision, there are going to be consequences. Now, whether those consequences are ones you can live with, or they're turning into regrets, that depends on the person. But short-term selfish decisions definitely can have long-term consequences.
Okay. Let me say goodbye to Eric. Eric, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate your stopping by. And again, I did get the email and I will respond. Crucible Man, I will say this. Again, there are millions of parents who do enjoy the Girl Scout cookies and the Little League games and what have you. There are some parents who they really, get into that. Even though my son didn't like soccer and Little League, I enjoyed going. I mean, it was fun. And I never, looked at, the things that, and I think you have a lot of other millions of parents who do not look at the things that the extracurricular activities and things that you do for your kids as something as they don't want to do. There are millions of parents who do enjoy, doing that, because you're also spending time with your children. So, but family is complicated. Some family can be difficult. Even in the quote unquote best of families, there are issues, and you never know what's going on behind closed doors. You never know, what is going on. But at the same time, I don't have a problem with being selfish, because and I'm not saying, my family is starving, I'm not feeding my child, I'm going to go out, with my friends and party. But I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, yes, you guys want me to do this, but I've done this for you this weekend. I did this for you last week or whatever. Next weekend, I'm going to do this. I am going to do this. And, you all will have to wait. Whatever they want to do, you have to put it on hold. We're not going to Disneyland next weekend because I'm going to the spa next weekend. We can go to Disneyland in 2 weeks or whatever. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think that when parents put themselves first, people do tend to say that they're selfish. I think that when siblings put themselves before their parents, you have other siblings who are calling them selfish, but those other siblings are not stepping up. So it's like you're always going to have one person, in my opinion, who's always doing more than others. Maybe because of the family dynamics, or maybe because, you know, in terms of where people live, whatever. There's always going to be somebody that's doing something more than others. But I don't think there's anything wrong at all for, you know, putting yourself first. Now, Shannon, you were talking about how if something were to happen to your father, that you wouldn't be there for them, for him. Is that just because the way he treated you has upset you so much that you just absolutely would not help him? Or is it more of a revenge thing, or I don't give a damn? Or what would make you help your dad if he really needed help? If he was the one that was bedridden and he really needed help, would you ever get to that point?
Well, I could have gotten over the initial him leaving and never, you know, and not coming back, whatever. But to not call me for over a decade, and no, I can't, because him and I have had bouts and time. We've had our problems. As far as, I guess we just we're too much alike, I guess, in a way. We've spent many years and periods of years of not speaking, and then we'd get back together, and it's like, you know, and it was great. But he'd always end up doing something that I didn't like. Like, my dad's just not a really good person. And he is one of the most selfish human beings I've ever known. He's been like that all my life. I'll give you an example. He's a man who had everything, but yet he was living with a man who was one of his friends. He was here in New Orleans. My dad no longer lives there, but he was moving out and moving to Bay St. Louis, in which I was in between apartments. So, and he needed some help, so I helped him then with money for rent and stuff, and I had a room there. And I'm like, well, you know, I can help you out for so many months, and then I'm going to move on, and, you know, hopefully you're going to... He was selling his hot sauce company at that point. And he just stole one of his best friend's teak tables, just purely because he wanted it. It's not, he could have gone out and bought his own teak table, but he that's just how he is. So when his friend named Skidmore, who was a botanist from a horticulturist, professor at Tulane, and came to look for it, he went and hid it in the shed and said, no, I didn't steal it. So he was looking through the house, because they were roommates and their stuff got mixed in together. But my dad knew what was his and what wasn't. He had like taken a lot of stuff. And it's like, and he's not a person who needed it, if you know what I mean. He just did it to do it. So, I mean, stuff like that, I couldn't stand that part of him. He just takes what he wants, and other people be damned. Like when he was there for me after open heart surgery, and I was very grateful, but all he kept doing was hit me up like, I need a TV for the bedroom. Couldn't I have this one if you don't, you know? I felt like he was only there because he thought I might die and what he could get. And hit me up to buy him this Mercedes. And it's like, that's just so typical. It wasn't just a situation that led me into this thinking. It's a lifetime of like him sitting me down. I was a very studious person, and I had my books in my hand. I was a junior in high school. He goes, Shannon, I want you to sit down. I'm like thinking, oh God, somebody died or something happened. And I was ready to go do my homework, sat me down and said, I just want to tell you, I love your brother more than I love you.
Wow.
I'm like, that's why you sat me down, is just to tell me that? Like, can I go do my homework now? I mean, he's just a real, I don't know. He just some people just aren't meant to be parents. And he definitely wasn't meant to be mine. And so, no, if it happened to him because of what he did to me, because this was our last shot of, getting back into each other's lives and no arguing or judgments or whatever. And I definitely would have waived the money that he owed me because he was my dad and I do love him very much. But the not calling me for a decade after my heart attack, that was just it. I'll never speak to him again, ever. Not even if he came and begged. I mean, because you don't understand, I bailed him out too. He, in the 80s, got strung out on cocaine, and that's what everybody was doing in the 80s, but not me, because I hate it. And but I found him, me and my first boyfriend, my live-in first boyfriend, my high school sweetheart, we were in our condo. It was a beautiful condo. Come home for the grocery store at noon, and there's my dad, all laid out on the sidewalk. He had written in bark, "Help me." I mean, so many people I knew were like shoving that shit up their nose. And that's one reason why I left Dallas, because I can't stand that stuff. And, but stuff like that. And I took him in and I took care of him for months, got him clean. And he never, one good thing that came out of it is he completely got off of it and never, abused cocaine ever again. And he's completely straight. And I feel like I did a good thing. And, but I get no appreciation for that. He couldn't even turn around and do something for me when it was a medical thing. And then to not call me ever. So no, that's it. Done. He is no longer my father. And no, I would not help him.
I'm just literally just sitting here just saying, wow. Again, as I say, family dynamics are complicated. We all have, we all come from families where, no family's perfect. People may say, oh, I get along great with my family and this and this and this. Okay, you probably do, but there's always that underlying issue. In my opinion, there's always that issue because no one's perfect. So because we aren't perfect people, I don't believe that there are perfect families. There are some families that are better than others. But family dynamics are complicated. And
well, he never took the time to really get to know me. He used to always say, "Oh, Shannon, you're such a beautiful girl. You don't need college. You can get by on your looks." And back then, I was modeling and had that. Yeah, back then I was a pretty cute girl, but I have a freaking brain. And I ended up being the one to go to. Of course, has his master's. My brother has his bachelor's. They did very well, but I'm the one who actually went to college later in life and blew their GPA away by like 2 points. They're like 3.0, and I'm 4.8. President's list, valedictorian. I mean, he never ever. He just didn't want to pay for college for me. But he did my brother, and my brother is working at a freaking movie theater still to this day, and he's in his 40s. Go figure. So no, I don't. Sometimes I don't even think I came from him. I don't know. He wasn't at my birth. I mean, it's so much, man. Just.
So Shannon, do you are you you have other brothers and sisters?
No, I have a younger brother, but he has a wife, and now he has 2 children, and him and my father are like 2 peas in a pod. So,
Okay.
So that's why I'm estranged from him as well.
Okay.
But I do love my brother, and I miss my brother. If my brother needed help, and I had to, which I will, I would definitely help my brother. But
Okay.
my dad just, that was it for me.
All right. Well, Burl says, Shannon, don't harbor hatred towards the vessel that brought you here. Just be glad he came.
I ain't touching that, bro, because I don't want to get with you. I love you, bro, but No, you don't know my whole life story. So this is where words of wisdom, I will not, sorry, you're not qualified to judge my situation.
I'm not judging your situation, Shannon. I love you. You know, you're my podcast bestie. But my father died in 2014. That's when I found out he died. In 2018, we were that disconnected. My estranged brother, that we don't even really deal with each other, he got the courage to call me one day and we had a conversation. And I asked him, you know, how's Pop? He said, man, he been dead. Now this is 2018. I said, when? He died in 2014 and nobody even contacted me. See, let me say this. When I say just be God, he came. I'm thankful for my dad, no matter how bad our relationship was, because I'm here as a result of him. So I don't have any hatred for him. I didn't, leave him alone because I hated him. I just wanted him to want to connect. And since he did, don't you know, it never even crossed my mind. I never speak negatively against my parents because without them, I would not be here.
Yeah, but you weren't talking to him either. So you, I mean,
Exactly. But you know what? Sometimes you got to give the people what they want. If he didn't want to talk, I'm not going to force anybody to do anything that they don't want to do. Nothing. Because I don't make the rules. I just play by them.
I think if my father ever wanted to come back in my life, it's just because I came into some money. And I think that's all. I think he's been a con all his life. And something very similar with our family. All my grandmother died. I mean, I was never very close on that side of the family because I didn't know my real father until I was 14. So I didn't know my grandmothers, my great aunts, and all that. That's why I went and took care of my aunt that I didn't know because I wanted to get to know them. And I sacrificed myself to do that when none of their own brothers and sisters, none of them would do it for them, but I did. And I didn't even know him. But my father has always been some kind of a genius. I mean, he is a genius and a brilliant writer. He went to school with Anne Rice and Jim Mars, and and he's freaking brilliant. But he's so obstinate and stubborn, and every turn just did the worst things to me. So I've been a much happier person by not having him in my life. Just because he was a sperm donor does not, I'm not going to put guilt on me for coming to a point after a lifetime of abuse, verbal abuse, not physical, and ignoring somebody and abandoning them and is abuse as well. So I've come to a point in my life that just said, I'm sorry. If I could get emancipated from him at this point, I definitely would, because I no longer consider him my father. And I do not care what the hell happens to him whatsoever.
Do you know that I figured out in life that we stay young way longer than we stay old? You become an adult at 18. But if you live to be 80 years old or beyond, you will be an adult for 60 to 70 years. I mean, what happened to me in my childhood and growing up and the relationships I had with people, I couldn't let that bother me as an adult, because once I became a grown man, the things that I wanted and needed people to do for me, I had the need and want to do those things for myself. And what's happening is a lot of entitled people whose mothers go beyond and above the call of duty. Do you know I have an aunt that has a 60-year-old son? And here she is, 80 years old, and he still live with her. Do you know what I told my aunt? When you die on your deathbed, stab him and take him with you because he's not going to make it without you. See, I'm glad nobody held on to me to the point where they castrated my manhood. I don't. I think as adults, we just want so much more from people than we're ready to even offer ourselves. We grown, we could get past a little rejection. We can get past a little abandonment. We just got to make sure that we don't repeat the cycle that was done to us. That's all we got to do.
Well, bro, it's interesting, that you say that, because again, I come back to, families are complicated, and I grew up in a complicated family, and I understand what Shannon is saying about
I do
her
too.
father, and I understand, what you're saying, but some people, like they say, there are fathers, and then there are just sperm
Donors, yeah.
donors, and then for women, some people are just the vessel that carried you, and then there are actual mothers, you know, um, in the end, when it's all said and done, when you're about to take that last breath, you know, you're going to live your life the way you feel that you needed to live to make you happy. And if it means letting those family members go, you got to let them go. If it means that you want to, keep them close, then you keep them close. But in
You know
the end,
what?
it has to be what makes you happy.
You don't have to love
Thank you,
them.
Solid.
You don't have to connect. You don't have to do. Do you know my life was fine not dealing with my father? But if I would have saw him as a bum sitting on a park bench with nothing to eat, I would have even made sure. If Jesus did us like we did people, and we say we believe. See, this is why when people talk religion to me, it's real sketchy. It's real iffy. If the God people abandon us like we abandon each other and just throw each other to the curb, then guess what? Nobody's on their way to heaven. Nobody. If we talk it, we got to be willing to live it. And that's what most of us don't do.
I just can't have somebody around me that would constantly make me feel bad about myself when I'm
But you
actually
don't have
much.
to. You don't ever have to
No,
speak
wait,
to them.
let me
Wait,
finish.
hold on, bro. Let her finish.
And he would constantly make me feel bad about myself. He was projecting his own self onto me, because I have lived my life being a much more humble, caring, generous human being than he could ever be. So I finally had to, all my life, I was just like trying to seek his love and his approval because of the way he was treating me. So finally, I felt like an adult, and I said, you know what? I don't have to put up with this. I love you, Dad, but all you do is make me feel bad about myself. And all I've ever done is love you and wanted your love, but I'm freaking done.
And Shannon, I completely understand, what you mean. There are some family members that do make you feel bad, and you just have to just let them go, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I'm not
Thank you.
saying keep them. I'm not saying keep them in your life. All I'm saying is you don't have to hate them from afar. Just cut the unbiblical.
No,
cord.
I don't hate him. I
That's
don't
all.
hate him at all. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I love him very, very much. I just
But you
can't
just
have him
said
in my
that.
life.
But you
You know,
just said
so
you'll never want to see them again.
no, I
my
don't.
heart
I don't.
in-
And I had to
in-
cut. I had to cut him off, and that's it. And it's got to be that way forever. Because if he has not changed in his upper 70s, he's never going to change. And It's just been the story of our whole life. And I'm happier without him in my life, making me feel bad. So I had to pretty much emancipate myself from him. He is no longer my father. I will not acknowledge him as my father ever, no matter what dire straits he's in, because of a lifetime of what he's done to me. It's not just a one-time thing and I'm mad like a little girl. No, this is a very adult decision, and it makes me feel, it's helped me heal from the situation and not try to keep seeking his love, which no matter how hard and how high I jumped, he would just knock me down. So
But
I
you
feel
know
like
what?
I've grown up since I made
I,
this
under,
decision.
I
Bro,
understand you now. Hold on.
let me ask you something.
What's that?
If and hate is a very strong word. Hate is a very strong word. It's a word that I never allowed my son to use. He may use it now, but growing up, he didn't use it. But if hating someone from afar makes, gives you peace,
Mm-hmm.
then the only person who you really need to reconcile yourself with at the end is
Uh-huh.
God. And if hating that person from afar or disliking that
Uh-huh.
person from afar is
Mm-hmm.
something that gives you peace because you don't want them in your life, especially if it's a family member, then
Uh-huh.
what does it matter?
See, you know what? All I'm saying is we shouldn't get headaches if we feel a certain way about a certain individual. If you let them go, let them go. Let all of that those ill feelings just let it ride. Because when I was living my life, do you know my dad never entered my mind? I went to work, took care of my kids, helped the ones that went to college, go to this. I never even thought about him for a moment, and never said anything ill, never talked badly about him. Even if I called like my aunt, his sister, and talked to her, I say, "How you doing?" Even though I really didn't care, but I wouldn't want her to think, "Oh, look at him, he's still harboring that hate." No, because I don't care about them, and people that I don't care about don't affect me in no way, no way. I can breathe, I can sleep good at night. Eh, I- That because if I'm talking about them, if I'm putting energy into saying anything negative about them in any type of way, I'm giving them power over my life. I'm saying that the way that they behave affect my life. And that wasn't so for me. When I let go, I let go. When people say they let go and they let God, I understand because I know how to do that real well.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, we are again. I am usually an hour. I always know we are going to go longer. So this has been interesting. Of course, we go from one subject to another to back to another, whatever, and that's all good, all fine. So I'm going to go around the room, and I'm going to start with Miss Shannon. Not that the room is too big today. Shannon, do you have anything you want to say? If anybody wants to add anything in chat, feel free.
I feel like the future relationships that I'm going to allow into my life, I've got to have trust, honesty, and I believe in treating them the way I would want to be treated. And from now on, because of the situation and the severe trust issues that I have in letting new people into my life, I mean, it's going to have to be forever. I don't know. And I don't feel guilty whatsoever by doing that to my father. Because like I said, it was a lifetime of him doing this stuff to me. So I'm not going to let that Catholic guilt, I was raised, well, not raised, baptized Roman Catholic. It's not going to get to me because he deserves this. And that's just the way it is.
Okay, bro.
Let me just say to the audience, and I understand you, Shannon. I really do, because I know that what make my situation like wait. I never saw anybody's approval. Do you know, if we depend on us, people will gravitate toward people that got the confidence in themselves, people that seek their own approval, because people want to be like them. See, if while you were seeking his approval, one of the reasons why he was rejecting you is because he knew it would hurt. See, people know how to cut you and split you wide open and put salt in the wound. I don't seek nobody's approval. I do what I do, and if it's the right thing, it pleases people anyway. That's all I got to say about that.
He never treated my brother that way. And
And your
I
brother
I equate that to the bonding in the early years. I think because he was there from a baby till his, all his life, that's what it was. And him and I never had that bonding experience because he abandoned my mother when I was born. And like I said, I didn't know him till I was in my mid-teens. So that's what I think our problem was and still is to this day.
Okay. Well, everyone, as always, you guys always give me a great show. So thank you so much. And Shannon, thank you
You're
for
welcome.
coming on and sharing, seriously. And bro, thanks for coming on. I know you just got off work, so I appreciate you being able to jump on. And Mediation Room, we are about to leave, but thank you so much. So to everyone, I appreciate your coming on. And Frankie, I did see your comment on the show on Friday, and yeah, it was Friday night, not Saturday night. So I'm sorry you missed it. So everyone, I could say speak your truth, but today I'm just going to say go where the wind takes you. And I'm Solid Blue Sister. This is my turn to talk, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Bye.
I love you, Solid Blue.
I love you too, Shannon. Thanks for coming. Okay, and
Solid Blue.
Revolutionary Pro, I'm still waiting for your email. You still haven't sent me an email.
Oh, that's
Oh yeah, that's right. You're supposed to send me an
Solid
email.
I did, bro.
Don't make me get no pink box.
I saw it.
I'm gonna get some pink box of love, Solid Blue. What's going on? Listen, I'm gonna get at you. I got to get at you.
Love you,
All
bro.
right, so love you too, Shannon. You already know.
You're my buddy.
But see, that's the thing about this podcast, Solid Blue. Everybody on here have a camaraderie that's like out of this
Then
world.
you need to send me an email so you can do what I want to do. So, and I'm not going to say it over the air because it's for a select few. And I'm telling you to send me an email. solidbluesister@gmail.com.
All right, that's what's up. I got you.
Shannon did her homework. You didn't do your homework.
See, Solid Blue. What was y'all talking about earlier? What was y'all talking about earlier?
Did you all not read what it's about? About family happiness, putting yourself first before your family? Is it selfish for you to, want to consider yourself first? Just about family. So yeah.
Okay, that's what's up.
But then again, the topics here, we start at A and we end up at Z. So.
Okay, but that's how the show goes, though, because it's so many different viewpoints, and you get them all.
Well, and I try to listen to everyone. So, all right, the music is ending. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Bye.
You too. Have a good one.
Bye.